It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. We are your podcast for relatable and relevant conversations with contractors, hopefully bringing a little entertainment to you as well. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Yo.
Episode 74 today. Our guest is Matt Darienzo. Did I get that?
You did.
Perfect.
Is it Darian or is it
nailed it.
Darienzo?
Darienzo?
Darienzo.
Oh, sorry.
You're
Almost.
close.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. You gotta check my ancestors. I'm like, I don't know.
CEO of Solar Art. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. Doing awesome. Thanks
Good.
for having me.
Thanks for coming in, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, kind of how we get started is we want to know about you. So, give us your background in this industry, how you got started in this industry, and the road to where you are now today.
For sure, yeah. I'll kind of give you a quick synopsis. So I started probably 20 years ago, year 2000. My dad's an entrepreneur. Always been interested in business. Went to school for television, actually. Didn't even go to school for business. Wanted to be a director. So I went to school. I'm from New York. Went to school back in New York, Hofstra University. Worked in television for a couple years. Worked for like Rosie O'Donnell and Martin Short. Yeah, did some like comedy writing because I was into comedy and writing. And
I can feel that.
Yeah, just good stuff. Like I love to laugh, and I used to. So I worked on the 30 Rock where Saturday Night Live was filmed.
Really?
Yeah, and so Rosie filmed her show. I don't know if you know Rosie. I mean, you guys are kind of older. So they filmed on the same floor as Saturday Night Live, and so I would go and watch Friday night. They'd do a full dress rehearsal for Saturday Night Live, and so I'd go sit in the audience and watch it just myself. The band rehearsal, the whole show, I'd watch it just by myself in the audience. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was fun, working with those writers, and it's an industry that's like kind of fast moving, and it's a different. You got to really like be a grunt for a long time. Like I started in the mailroom and worked my way up to work with the writers. And then I became a writer then I worked as assistant writer on Martin Short Show. And then I became a writer on some cheesy game shows, writing like these stupid like game show questions and shit like that. So long story short, I just felt like it was like going from job to job. Like shows usually don't last that long, so you have to like skip and go to the next show. And so I was like, man, I don't know if this is for me. Like I'm good, I'm funny, but I'm not that funny. Like and there's so many people that are so much more talented. So I'm like, what else do I want to do? I know business. My dad's an entrepreneur, had like muffler shops. He had a video store. He had like all these different businesses.
Not Blockbuster, right?
Not Blockbuster. He had a little small movie store called At the Movies in Irvine. I'll never forget it. And we were in a shopping center, and fucking Blockbuster moved in like right there. But that was fucking. It was over. Well, Blockbuster got theirs, right?
Did your dad sit home that day and go,
yeah, exactly. He's like, for sure. But yeah, he's just a scrappy like entrepreneur. He retired at like 40, just from like saving every nickel and like living below your means, like all that the good entrepreneurial stuff. And so I grew up with him. And then my grandfather, he was an entrepreneur like back in the day, and they just had a lot of different businesses, a lot of different stuff. And so my dad's like, I'm like, I don't want to be a writer, I'm like, well, I want to be in business. He's like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know, I like cars. He's like, all right, well, let's look for something for cars. And so we found, this was in 2000, I was like 25. We found this automotive tint shop that was for sale. And they just mostly did car window tinting. They had like one guy that did like residential and commercial and went out, but it was mostly cars. They were doing probably $500,000 in cars, maybe $200,000 in residential commercial. And the guy that had bought it one guy had it for 10 years. The second guy that bought it worked for Armor All, and he's a corporate guy that wanted to become a small business owner. And he bought it, and he's like, holy shit! Like he was like wearing like a suit and tie, and he's like trying to run it like a corporate office. When there was like 3 tinners, and like it's like a small business. You can't run it like a corporation. And he was just like not in his element, right? Super nice guy. Long story short, we made him an offer. My dad made him an offer. I had no money, and we bought it for like a super killer deal. That was in 2000, and so I got a job basically. Like I was working there, like learning the business. Sweat equity, just learning. Basically, I didn't go to school for business, so I didn't know P&Ls. I didn't know anything. So that was like it was a really small business. So we were able to like just learn about managing people, customer service, answering the phones, like just basically just business, everything about business, profit margins, all that stuff. And so, so basically like 10 years, that was my school. I did that for 10 years, just learning business. And it was cars. So I love cars. These cars would come in and like, we'd get the newest cars because people get new cars. I want to get it tinted right away.
Yeah.
And they bring it in. And so we would tint it. They would come in. They'd be happy, excited. Oh, man, it looks so great. And so it was a good business. It wasn't like a repair shop where you go and you get something. You're pissed off. Yeah. You got to spend $1,000 on a transmission. And you're like, oh, I'm fucking pissed. This sucks. And they're writing the check. They're like happy to spend the money.
Yeah.
And so it was like,
it's like a plastic surgeon, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, totally. So I loved it. So for 10 years, I was just like, is this a job? It wasn't even a job to me because I love cars. And so just doing the car thing, making, I don't know, $40,000, whatever I was making for the 10 years, just kind of learning. And then after 10 years, is like about 2009, 2010, I'm like, man, I kind of like felt like got confident. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, how do I scale this thing? How do I grow it? How do I grow the business? And I looked at the residential part of it where I had the one guy going in and out, and I'm like, man, if we could do more than that, I just need another guy and like a van to go out, and I can just do more, right? With automotive, you need more locations, you need more infrastructure. You got to like get a location. It's a little bit more intricate. It's retail. Customers are coming to you versus me going out to them on a commercial aspect. And this is when like energy efficiency was like, oh, hey, everything's going green, and no one really knew that window tinting. I mean, they kind of knew that it worked on cars, it blocks heat, but for commercial, it really wasn't that big at that point. But it was starting to kind of gain momentum. Oh, you can put this on a building and it can like save energy. It could save you money. It could block the heat from coming in. You don't have to change your windows. Like, oh, it's pretty cool. So I started to kind of research about the residential commercial. I'm like, man, this looks like it can be scalable. Like, but I don't know anything about the residential commercial business because I didn't care about it because all I cared about was the cars. The guy would come back. He'd go I'd be like, here, go do it. I would go out. I'd be the sales guy for residential, but I'd like write the order up. I'd be like, oh, here you go. Like, it was just like, I didn't care about it because I love cars. I didn't care about the residential commercial.
So you were at that point, you weren't even really marketing it. People were just coming to you.
This is like a mom and pop small business. Like we're doing a full page ad in the yellow pages. Like that was I gotta get full page, gotta get ahead of the next guy. That was back then. That's the most marketing we were doing. But it was a lot of repeat referral. We weren't spending that much on marketing. But I'm like, okay, how do I scale this thing? So I said, okay, well, residential commercial, it seems like you can do more volume with a lower overhead. Guy in a van could earn me $300,000 to $500,000 more. And all I need is a van and a guy, right? And also I can go further. I can go like someone's driving to get their windows tinted. They're coming from a 5-10 mile radius, maybe a little bit more. They're not coming from 20, 30, 60 miles. Right. But a guy in a van, I can do a job 60 miles away, no problem. It just costs me the gas to get there. If it's $4,000 job, $10,000 job, that could work. So I started researching the residential commercial business. And then this was in Orange County. We had my business was in Orange County. In LA, I forget how I found out about it. It could have been one of the reps. Said, hey, this guy in LA. He's got a residential commercial business. It's been around a really long time. He wants to sell it, and it's called Solar Art, and it's in like downtown, like LA, like Van Nuys area. And I'm like, cool. Let me look at it. So I went and I looked at it, and this guy was doing it for like 20 years, and he started a mountain biking business. It was called Niner Bikes. I don't know if you heard of the mountain.
No,
this guy's he's like really successful. Anyway, he was running the bike business out of the back of his window tinting shop, and he got kind of bored with the window tinting. But he was only doing residential commercial. It was in LA, which is a huge market, and he was doing about I think $1 million in sales. And at one point he was doing like 3 or 4 million, but he got kind of bored with it, so the sales kind of dropped. And at this point, he wanted money for his bike company. He just wanted to get out of it, and so he was selling it for $250,000. And so I looked at it and I looked at the numbers. I'm like, man, this business is $1 million business. Most small businesses don't do $1 million, but $1 million is pretty good revenue.
Yeah, good mark.
Yeah, and we have good margins in our business. We have like high gross profit margins. Like we can make 60 plus gross margins in our business. So very good high gross margins. So I looked at the business. I'm like, wow, this like I did all the math on an Excel sheet. I looked at all the math. I'm like, this could work out. And of course, I don't have any money. Go to my dad, who's like, the saver, everything. I'm like, Dad, great opportunity for you. Here you go. I go. This is a great opportunity. The guy wants to get rid of this business. Like it's making good money. Like we could, if you're netting 20% on $1 million, that's $200,000. If you're selling it for $250, that's like a 1 multiple. Yeah. That's like a ridiculous deal, right? And so it took me probably 4 months, 5 months to convince him to loan me the money to do it. But finally he did. He's like, all right. He's like, I could see it. Let's do it. So he gave me a loan, and we bought that business. So that was it. That was the start of like basically my residential and commercial career. So now I have this automotive business in in Orange County, and then I got this other business, residential commercial only in LA. So now I got to figure, okay, now my business is mostly automotive, but now it skews, right? Because now I'm 1 million plus 200, I'm 1.2 million residential commercial and 500,000. So now it's like automotive is like over here and residential commercial is over here. And I got to figure out, okay, how am I going to run this thing remotely? How am I going to manage the staff in LA? Like they had a manager there that, when I bought it, stole the database, stole the laptop. The day we were supposed to hire him, that day he steals the laptop. He takes it. He starts his own business. Steals all the customers. So that was my first acquisition that I did. I'm like, oh fuck. So and then the employees come in and we tell the employees like that day, like I didn't know mergers and I didn't know how to do acquisition. We all come in, we all tell them like that day, like literally like the morning of, the old owner told them. Then I walked in like 15 minutes later, hey, I'm your new boss. And like
no time to think at all, no processing.
Crazy. Employees are crying, going in the other rooms. It was a disaster. It was a disaster. So I'm like, so that was like, and then the whole like figuring out the inventory and how do we do all this stuff. And so it was definitely like, it was learning about how to like actually make, and now obviously I've done more, I'll get into that, but like kind of how to do an acquisition, how to, what are the steps taken and all that stuff. But I learned by basically just fucking up a million times, you know what I mean?
Well, so when was that from on a timeline? When did you buy that
I bought it in the end of 2009, so like December of 2009, so January 2010. So it was like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I do it, and I'll kind of fast forward a little more. I'm like,
don't worry about fast forwarding.
Okay, cool.
We got,
all right, cool. Okay, cool.
We're in no time crunch here. So
So then I remember like 2008-9. That was like the recession, right?
Yeah, terrible time. Yeah.
Terrible time, right? So that's why sales went down. But like for me, because I did this deal, like I didn't really feel the pain because I was like kind of moving and trying to like adjust, and I wasn't taking a lot of money from the business. I was still taking my whatever I was making, $40,000 from that salary. So what I was doing, I was using all that money and putting it back into the business.
Right.
And so I was able to create the infrastructure for the business, figure out how to run it remotely, and then so for the next kind of year, I was learning the residential and commercial. I didn't really know a lot about, how to deal with like what I did was mostly residential down by me. This guy was commercial. He's dealing with property managers, general contractors, glass companies.
Right.
And so he was really kind of integrated in that. So I had to learn like how to deal with them, how to price jobs, like, contractors license, insurance, all that stuff. I had to kind of learn about that kind of as we got that business. And so, but I saw the potential of it. I saw like, hey, because with residential, like our films, you have a lifetime warranty. So if I do a house, I do it once, I'm done. Like I'm not going back there most of the time. Yeah. Commercial as well, like, same thing. Like it lasts 15, 20 years. But if you're a contractor, you have a lot of different jobs.
Right.
If you're a glass company, you have a lot of different jobs. So you as a glass company or contractor could give me a lot of work as you're doing TIs, as you're doing build outs, as you're doing stuff. And so that was cool. You can get repeat customers. And so we had these property managers that would give us continuous business, and tenants would complain, they would call us, or contractors would do a new build out, something would be on the plans, they would call us. So I saw the development of the commercial business, and also looked at the landscape. Most of the bigger companies in my space, window tinting, were commercial only. They were like 80% commercial, 20% residential. So they're mostly focused on that. Now I can see why, and also big businesses, Facebook and all these retail chains, right? They need all different types of window film, security, graffiti. We do all different types. So I saw that as well. And so it worked. The acquisition was good. So I did my P&L for the year. The year went by. I showed my dad. I'm like, lad, it worked. It was cool. I was paying him back. It was great. And then so a year later, another company came and was for sale. And it was the same company. It was like, it was $1 million. It was like literally in the backyard of LA, the same one I bought. Guy had been doing it 35 years, wanted to get out. And this time he wanted more money. This one he wanted like, I think it was 400 maybe, thousand. So I'm like, fuck, I paid 250, 400 is a lot of money. But then I'm like, wait a minute, but he's doing $1 million. And if he does $1 million and I'm doing $1 million, and I put his million with my million, and I put the shops together because I only need one location, I only need one rent, one phone bill, consolidation. And I did the financials, and I'm like, this could work. This putting two businesses together, it could work.
Yeah.
Like 400, like that's not bad. My gross profit's like 60 on the million, plus I don't have a lot of overhead. Like that's gonna all fall to the bottom line. Like this works. Did all my numbers, put it all together, go to my dad, I go, Dad, this works. He's like, I got no more money for you. He's like, I'm done. I got no more money. I'm like, all right, no problem. I call the SBA, I go, SBA, I got a great deal for you. I call the SBA, I sit down with the SBA, I do all the numbers, I go, guys, this looks great. Look at this. I put this business with this business. Here's my projections. Here's the thing. I'm gonna put 20% down from the money I saved. I go, what do you say? They're like, looks good. We'll give you the money. I'm like, cool, let's do it. So bought the second company, got the SBA loan, and we did it. And so now I'm 2 million strong, in LA. I got a little bit of business in Orange County. Now I'm running the automotive still, and that automotive is getting crazy because now I can't be there because I got to be here. Right. Automotive customers come to you. So they're like, they want service. They walk in your door, like it is like they're in front of you. Like, what's this on my window? What's this little piece of dirt? Like, what is this? Very, very customer service oriented right there. Right. And so I had to get rid of the automotive. So I sold the automotive to a good friend of mine, got rid of the automotive, focused on the residential commercial. So that was kind of the next step, right? Sold the automotive to a good friend of mine, one of my best friends. He runs it now, still doing awesome, still, scaling that business. So now we're doing 2 million. I'm learning. I'm still kind of learning about the business. I'm starting to hire people now because I can't do it all myself. Right. I was doing the sales, I was doing the bookkeeping, I was doing everything. Just start scaling it up. I think the third one, then I'm like, okay, well, this works, right? I did it twice. Let's keep doing it, right? So I'm saving money at the same time from the acquisitions, right? Every time I do an acquisition, I'm making more money. I'm put it in a way and saving the money. Right. I'm like, okay, where can I do another acquisition? So I'm like, okay, what other markets are there? Well, I'm in Orange County. Are there any in Orange County I can buy? Are there any in San Diego I can buy? So I think the third one I bought was in San Diego County. It was like kind of East San Diego County. And it was very, very small. It was only like $100,000. And they were only doing like $350,000 in sales or something like that. And it was a husband and wife owner. And this was a learning lesson. And I bought it, and I'm like, okay, they only wanted like $100,000, but their sales were low. And I'm like, okay, I want to start up in San Diego. Let's do it. Like, it's cool. And big mistake because their revenue wasn't enough to sustain an office. I couldn't afford to pay a whole staff there. Didn't have enough revenue. Right. And the owner and the wife, they were leaving. They sold the business and they left the state. They were gone.
Can't operate out of LA down in San Diego.
And I can't operate in LA, San Diego. So I had to hire a team, but I didn't have enough money. And the business just like, it really was really difficult. I rented an office, but it was the wrong move, the wrong decision. It didn't have enough revenue to sustain and support my model, right. Which was, operations manager, salespeople, 3 or 4 installers. Like I was starting to build that model, and it didn't have enough revenue. So I'm like, shit, how do I fix this? Well, maybe I'll buy another company. So I found another company in San Diego. They were doing like 600,000 or 700,000. Found that one, and now these ones. Now I'm starting to call companies. So hey, you want to sell, right? Because I'm like, because I have to fix the problem. Right, so right. It may not be for sale. So I'm like, hey, I like your, you want to sell, like, you're kind of old. You've been doing this 40 years. Like you want to get out, right? And so I did that. And so I bought another company in same thing, San Diego. And at the same time, I forgot to tell you, the second company I bought, the one in LA, the owner, I said, hey, you want to maybe kind of semi-retire, but like, you want to work for me? He's like, yeah, I'll work for you. I'm like, you want to do sales? Yeah, no problem. So like, what better to have the owner that knows the business, knows everything, selling the product and making commission, working 3 days a week, going fishing the other 2 or doing whatever they want to do. He still works for me today, since 2011, 10 years, the second owner that I bought. And a lot of the other owners work for me now. So same thing happened with this one. The San Diego guy, he started working for me. He sold the business, took some cash off the table, started working for me. Then now I had like almost $1 million in San Diego. So it was kind of enough. And so that one was kind of running now. So I had that location going. And then, I don't want to walk through every single one because I can't even remember all of them. But so we did another one in Orange County. And so that kind of built up the Orange County. So then we created an Orange County location which serviced San Diego. So then we had an LA one. Then we had then I got sort of a little cocky. I'm like, okay, well,
It's working.
Southern California, like where else can we go? I'm like, let's San Francisco, man. Let's go up the coast. Let's do it. So and I forget if this one was for sale. I think I don't know if it was for sale or I offered it, whatever. Called the guy in San Francisco through my kind of, once you're in the industry, you're going to the meetings, you're meeting everybody, and eventually, like, I'm starting to be the guy that's like buying these companies. And so if you want to sell, like, people are reaching out to me, which is good. And so San Francisco opportunity happened. A fairly bigger size company. And again, still, I'm doing this with SBA loans, credit lines. As I'm starting to kind of build equity with the SBA, and they're seeing my model, they're kind of believing in me. So I'm starting to do these loans. They're slow, they're hard, they're really difficult to do. But for me, it was kind of, at that point, it was the right move to do. I was putting money down on it. And so I bought one in San Francisco. So that started the San Francisco operation. Because in LA, I was like, well, I'm running the LA one, and I was up to a point where I didn't have to go there that much. So I was like, it's running in LA, and I'm not going there. So why can't I open one in San Francisco? It's a plane ride, but like, I'm not driving to LA, and it's running. So what? It's in San Francisco. If I got to go there, it's a 45-minute flight. It's easier to fly to San Francisco than drive to LA sometimes.
Right, yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's try. So I did that. I'm like, and that was kind of the first hurdle of, wow, it's a plane ride away. It's a different. So we did San Francisco. San Francisco worked out okay. We've had that one for about 4 or 5 years. And then we're like, okay, let's do another one. And so then I started calling companies up the coast in Seattle. And I'm like, Seattle, let's try Seattle. So we tried Seattle, and I bought a company in Seattle 3 years ago. And so now we have a location in Seattle. So it just kind of steamrolled, right? It's just kind of steamrolled. And so, and now they're starting to get like, there are big companies out there, and like larger companies. These are smaller companies that I'm buying. I'm doing with cash flow, doing with loans.
Right.
And at some point, we were like, okay, we want to like scale up. And so then we started talking to private equity, like, okay, we need more money. We need money faster. Like, how do we do this? And so the banks is a good way to go. I'd recommend the banks if, on a smaller size, but the banks cap out at $5 million, in terms of like total loan debt that you want to have. You also be careful. You don't want to just start borrowing money and not actually, paying it back, or, making sure that your debt to income ratio, in other words, how much you make versus how much debt you have. Right. You have to make sure that ratio stays in line, because if your debt goes way too high and you don't have a lot of income coming, then it gets sketchy, right? So you have to make sure that your debt to income ratio is really, really strong. And so we were cognizant of that fact. But we did sign with private equity about a couple of years ago, and for easier access to money. Right. It's more expensive money. The debt's more expensive. The interest rate's more money. Yeah. I heard all the horror stories. I took probably a year to a year and a half vetting private equity companies, talking to 20, 30 companies, right? And it was hard for me to find a company because most private equity companies want you to be 5 million EBITDA. They want you to be 5 million net profit before they talk to you, right? And so, we were small. We weren't even close to that. And so, but we were going to get there, right? I knew we were going to get there. So I was calling. Every time I'd call them, I'd be like, "Hey, are you interested?" I'd send them my deck and everything. They'd be like, "This is a great story, but call me when you hit 5 million." They just don't want to talk to you, because for them to put up all the work in and the lawyers and the contracts, they want to see the upside. So they don't want to deal with someone that's under 5 million, under 4 million EBITDA. They want to see dollars. They want to see you go from 5 million EBITDA to 10 million EBITDA, right? Or 15 or 20. They want high numbers, bigger dollars. And so I talked to a lot of guys. They love the story. They're just like, you're just too small. And so it took me a really long time to find sort of that niche, smaller company that was willing to kind of take a risk on us and get us from that point to the next point, right? Yeah. Where I think that the opportunities will open up. And so that's been the last 10 years, kind of doing those acquisitions, getting to this point. So we have a location now in Orange County, which is our corporate location. So we have a central location, which has marketing for all the locations. We have printing, so we do printing and graphics, which kind of supplies all the other locations. We have accounting, so we have a centralized accounting, so no one does their own accounting in each locations. We have accounting, we have marketing, and we have a printing, and corporate. All the executives are there, I'm there, and the CFO's there, and then all the locations are just purely just operation locations, right? It's just
trucks and guys.
Guys, warehouse, operations manager, and salespeople, right? And then they report up to like sales manager, and operations report like to me. And so it's a very simple model, but it hadn't been done before. And so like a lot of companies will try and emulate and be like, I want to be like that company, or I want to be like that company. For me, it was like, well, I couldn't look up to that. There was no model. Like I had to create the model and figure out. We created our own software system to be able to integrate all the inventory systems for all the locations, so all the locations know what inventory they have. They can change it. A quoting system, so we could all see what the quotes are, each other's quotes, all that. Scheduling for the guys, scheduling for the sales guys. So we had to like build that. So it took years and years, and we're still like developing it and doing it. But we're finally at a point where we've created this model where now we just basically have to look for a company, buy a company, and then basically integrate them into our model. Because like we talked about, these construction companies, window tinners, they're very archaic. They operate on paper, carbon copy. Like they're still doing that stuff, right? So we'll buy a company and we'll go in and we'll say, guys, like this is great, but like let's do it this way, is easier, and we'll kind of teach them along, but all along, like the advantage of buying companies, not only just for scaling and for growing the company, but the advantage is like I'm buying these companies. Most of these guys have been doing it 30, 35 years. And so I have the knowledge of each one of these guys in the back of my head of 35 years. We bought 9 companies now. So I got 9 guys, that, most of them have been in business, 20, 30 years that, and everyone does things differently. So we learn as we buy a company. Oh, that's how you do that? Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's how you cut that film? Oh, that's how you install? Oh, that's how you do that? And so I think we're a combination of all these, guys that, these original guys that were in the industry when it started. And so I think that's made us better as a company, for SolarR. As we're a new company, we want to use technology, we want to use all that stuff, but we have the equity of all these guys that have been in the industry for so long, and a lot of them that still work for us and still go on, like our guy in Seattle. Seattle was one of our best acquisitions. You think, oh, Seattle, window tinting? Seattle? It makes no sense, right?
Not a lot of sun up there, right?
It makes no sense. But it's literally like one of our busiest locations. Competition is a fraction of what it is in California. You throw a rock from in LA and Orange, you'll hit 200 companies. Our industry is a great business because anybody can get into it, and you can get into it for nothing. I can give you a box of film and a squeegee. You can get you in your truck and be like, I'm window tinner, and you can knock on doors and you can do business. It costs nothing to get in the business, and it's a very profitable business. It's great business. That's the downside, right? For like people that are trying to scale. Downside to you, but it's the upside for that. But like, in terms of like doing bigger projects, like you have build out, you have to have insurance, you have to have all that kind of stuff to scale.
One guy in the truck to do the big jobs.
You can't. But it's a great way to make a living. Like if you yourself want to make $100,000, like you could do it easily, or maybe more, like doing window tinting, right? But having all those companies together is kind of taught, and it's a good way to kind of get everyone on board. But what I was saying with Seattle is like it's one of our busiest locations. There's not as much competition. There's a lot less companies there, and so I feel you develop the relationships more with your customers because there's just not so much noise, and there's not so much.
Is that because Seattle is rain and cloudy?
Well, and no one's going to go there. The mentality is, I'm not going to open in Seattle, you know what I mean? And so that's the same thing, but
great
I'm like,
for you.
I was like, look at these numbers, it's great, And so there's a couple of shops out there, we're one of the biggest out there, and there's a couple other ones, and the guy that we bought it from, like, he's like, man, I love fishing, I would love window tinting, I got to drive. He's like, but I want to like do this, I don't want to run the business and deal with employees and all this stuff. He's like, I just want to sell. And he is killing it because we released him from all the minutia of running the business, and all he does is go out and just sell and create relationships, and he is crushing. He's probably making more now as a sales guy than what he was owning the business.
With a lot less stress and worries.
Legit. So I mean, we have like success stories like that, and so we try and so that's kind of that's our path right now. So now we're just. And kind of now like people in the industry, and they kind of know like kind of my thing. So people are calling, just
So where are you guys at on volume now with all your locations?
So last year we did about 12 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And then this year we were projected to do more, but
shit at the fan.
How's that going, by the way? Like I've heard varying stories. I've heard some people are just killing
especially
it,
being all over the place. I feel like you've got different experiences out of all your different locations.
So it's good to have different markets so we can see like the different locations. Essentially they run their own like a small business. They're different locations, so I can see how each market is, and we kind of have that. But we got hit pretty hard. I mean, we were we got hit pretty hard. We were down about 50% when we were in the height of it, which like.
I was gonna say Seattle and San Francisco. They're probably two of the worst places you could have been.
Yeah. But like 50% was not that bad if you think about like what we went through and like literally getting shut down. You know, we were essential. Some of our jobs were essential. So we were able to like operate on like a kind of a skeleton crew for a lot of our jobs, and so we were able to do some revenue. We had some big projects that hit right at that same time that were essential projects that we were able to facilitate. So we actually were able to survive. The PPP money was great. We got all the PPP money. So from a cash perspective, we were fine. We were just trying to build back the sales, and so we're climbing back now, and we're definitely not back to where we were, but we're definitely every month we see it kind of climbing back slow and slow. And so every industry is different. Like I talked to some guys in the construction industry, they're like, yeah, we're busy. We just can't. We're just so busy. Like I don't know if you guys have talked to other people.
It seems like it just depends on the industry. Some people completely shut down, but like you said, are starting to see it now.
Yeah.
Others literally didn't miss a beat, and they maybe had more business through this last 6 months.
Yeah, and like you said, every market was different. Like LA got hit pretty hard. I mean, between like with LA, you have like now you have the pandemic, you have the riots, you have the fires. You have like all these things. Like it's like, okay, what else could happen? You know, what else could happen? You know, and then San Francisco, like they were super conservative on the shutdown. They closed. Like they didn't even have that many like deaths, and they like shut down everything. Like they made us close the doors. Like it was nuts. And so we're like, okay, like so we were just kind of had to roll with whatever it was. So it's coming back, but I think we had to adjust. We had to kind of cut expenses. I think COVID for us, like I look at these times as like as a way to like how to be efficient, how to like like in the last downturn, like that's when I grew and bought companies, right? And so now I'm like, okay. So we looked at our company, and we looked at the whole company as a whole, and we're like, okay, where are we fat? Where could we cut? What could we do? And we made adjustments, and we kind of changed everything. And I think we're going to come out actually stronger than we went in. And if we can get revenue back, the company will actually be in a stronger financial position.
Right.
So,
right.
But yeah, we got to get revenue back. I mean, it's everyone's kind of in that same boat. I think. This year will kind of play out, and then we're looking at next year right now. We're not. We're just saying, let's just get through this year.
Are you looking at taking this model to other aspects of the construction industry at all?
So no, I have other businesses.
Yeah.
So I I got kind of the itch, just like my dad and other businesses. So I started because I love the cars, I started bought a automotive detail supply business. So we sell like waxes and polishes and things like that. I found a friend of mine that wanted to go in the business. He used to be do it in Greece, and partnered with him. He runs it. It's in Temecula. It's a store. It's a brick and mortar store, but they sell online as well. And so that's kind of another business that I have. I also bought a pizzeria about a year ago. Yeah, my father-in-law's I'm Italian. My father-in-law's from Sicily. He makes amazing pizza, and so this is the business.
Where's this at?
This is literally down the block. Sal's Pizzeria. You've not gone there? We're gonna go after. If you guys want to go, I'll have a pizza. They're having a pizza ready because these guys want to have some pizza after, so we're going to get pizza after. But listen,
where's it at?
Town Hill Center, right here, around the corner, like literally right
next
around the corner.
Next to what though? Like
the movie theater. The movie theater.
Okay.
Yeah, Foothill Town Center. It's like you can throw a rock and hit it. Anyway, so he's from Sicily, and I'm from New York, and I'm a pizza snob. I love pizza, but I don't eat it in California. I only eat his pizza, so he would make it for the family, but he'd only make it like once. He'd only make it once a year, or when for like a birthday. I'm like, man, I love pizza, and he never makes it, and I won't go to anywhere else. I'm just so stuck up about pizza, right? And so I'm like, man, I go, what if I just buy a pizzeria? Well, I find a pizza. I know business really well now. I'm confident, right? I have to run businesses. Like pizzeria, how hard could it be, right? He's a distributor. My father-in-law distributes Italian food products, not in the pizzeria business, but he distributes products. I'm like, he can sell me the products cheap. Like, let me just find a pizzeria. I'll buy it. If I buy it, he can make his pizza. I can have this pizza whenever I want. Legit. The only reason I bought it. So, found a pizzeria for sale, Foothill Town Center. It was a franchise called Upper Crust Pizza. It was kind of an old
New York Upper Crust.
Upper New York. It was kind of a stale franchise. They've been around a while, but like, pizza's okay. Was not like Sal's Pizzeria. So I'm like, no problem. So, gave him money down, bought the pizzeria. April of 2019 last year, we took 6 months, learned the business. I learned how to manage people. I mean, the pizzeria business is different, right? You got many employees.
I was in restaurants for
part-time
15
employees.
years, yeah.
You got food costs, labor costs. You got to keep down, manage it. So bought it, learned it. We closed for like 10 days. Completely renovated the space, new sign, Sal's Pizzeria, create new menus. It was like a lot of work. Renovate, clean the place. The place is, how to just the whole thing. And we created the brand. We won Taste of Lake Forest last year, like best pizza for the Taste of Lake Forest. That was cool. We were in Orange County Register. Like it's getting a lot of love. And so yeah, super successful. So I bought another one. So we're opening in Mission Viejo and Kaleidoscope in about 3 weeks. I just bought it. So it's another
right
pizzeria. Right off Crown Valley and Kaleidoscope. So that was what we'll call Rocco's. And that closed down. We bought it. So we're starting the renovation yesterday. We're going to renovate it. We're going to open in 3 weeks. So we're out of that one. So COVID was actually a benefit to the pizzeria because when people couldn't. So we were next to a movie theater. So most of our business was slices.
Right.
So that people would come in for slices. We didn't do a lot of delivery. And so they closed the movie theater down. So no one was coming in. But all of a sudden, the phones started ringing off the hook. We need pizzas. We need full pizzas. We want pickup. I'm like, holy shit. Delivery went through the roof. I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So we had to learn how to do delivery and change the business to takeout and stuff. And so during COVID, when stuff was Dead, me, my wife, my son, we started delivering pizzas. We were delivering pizzas because we wanted to expand the radius and do more because the DoorDash would only go 5 miles. And so
here you are with a $12 million solar art business and you're delivering pizzas.
It was delivering pizzas. Yeah, no, we do. So we created. So I live in Ladera, so I'm like, let's deliver to Ladera because all my friends are there. Like, how do we get your pizza? I'm like, all right, we'll do delivery window. Let's do from 5 to 6 p.m. We'll put a website. My buddy Johnny there made the website. He's like, he'll put it out there and we'll tell people we can deliver their pizza between 5 and 6 p.m. because I don't want to be driving back and forth. I want to drive just once, right?
Yeah. So load up with 40 pizzas and go.
That's what we did. So we're doing 10 deliveries in the hour. We're running around delivering. I got 40 pizzas in the car. And we had to stop. He had to put a thing on the thing to stop taking orders because I couldn't take that many.
Right.
But I never forget the one night I'm like this is ridiculous. I got greedy. I'm like, I want to make money. All these people are coming in. I don't want to turn away business. I want business. I go, Johnny, leave it on. We got 30 orders that we had to deliver in an hour. People were so pissed. We got lit up on Facebook. I don't know, there's Ladera Moms, which is a mom site.
Ladera Moms.
Bro, we got lit. We were an hour late, missed pizzas. Sal's is horrible there. Missed my pizza was cold. It was a disaster. I was calling people. I refunded literally half the orders that day. So I was just but that was right in the middle. So it was just I'm calling people. But it was so that was learning how to change the you're adapting, right? You have to adapt in business, whatever you do. Window tinting, contractors, pizzerias, you just have to adapt. And so we learned how to, facilitate and scale the delivery business. And so, now we're doing no movie theater business and we're doing more revenue than we were before with takeout and delivery. Yeah. And so when the movie theater,
which is great because when they open back up, you're just going to get that revenue back.
They're 25%. They're allowed to open up. So you could open up 25. I don't know who's going to go 25% of the theater, but they opened up today. So we'll see. Exactly. So that's what we're planning on. So hopefully when it comes back. So the pizza business, that's my passion. I love pizza. I'm Italian. So it's just so I could talk about pizza for another hour, but I know that we're talking to contractors, so it's a little different. But business,
who like pizza.
Business is business though. At the end of the day, it's business is business. You just have to look at your business. You look at your profit margin. I was never really super good at school. I never got really, really good grades, but I think I was very thorough when I look at stuff. I was very and also finding good people. Everyone says that, oh, you got to find the good people, right. But that's fucking hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing.
They're not sitting there waiting for you to knock on the door.
No, it's the hardest thing. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I think has made my businesses successful is for some reason I'm able to find those good people and then like get them, motivate them, and then put them in the right place to succeed. And I think that's the only reason I'm able to run, 3 or 4 businesses at the same time. And like I want to do more, and I don't feel I'm at capacity because I have really good people around me that I trust. That you can really trust and like put them and let them run with it. And so I think that's
it's that old mantra, right? Like hire people better than you to
100%.
Yeah.
And I just watched, I don't know if you guys have you watched the show on Discovery Channel called Undercover Billionaire?
Oh, I've heard about it. I've seen like snippets of the episode.
Great. If any contractors are watching this,
is that different than the Undercover Boss show?
Yeah, okay. This is a guy. He said he's a billionaire. He made money in the financial world. He's like, I want to prove that you can make it with nothing. You don't need a bankroll. You can make it with nothing. Give me $100 and drop me anywhere in the country, and I'll turn it into $1 million business in 90 days. I'm like, what? So he gets on his private jet. He doesn't know where they're going. They drop him in Erie, Pennsylvania. Right? They give him a pickup truck, a cell phone, and $100 and go ahead. And he's like, literally, this is a billionaire, right? The first thing he does goes on Craigslist. He's like, all right, what do people want? Find your buyer first. He's smart. What do people want? He finds what people want, and he goes, people want truck tires. So he's in Erie, Pennsylvania. It's an industrial town. It's kind of like an old town, and it's beat down, but like a lot of empty warehouses and junkyards and stuff. He's combing through in trash bins, dumpster diving, looking for these like big truck tires because people want to buy them. So he ends up like finding these truck tires. He gets the Craigslist. He finds the guy. He makes 1,000 here, makes 1,000 there. He buys a used shitty car, takes it to the car wash, makes a couple thousand there. Then buys another car, makes another 1,000 there. Then he gets enough to buy a house because he needs to buy the house to flip the house to get the money for the business. And he's going to open like this restaurant, barbecue, and beer business, right? And he gets people. He goes to SBA. He's like, hey, there's a small business development company. He's like, I'm opening this business. Can you help me? They give him help, free, everything. Yeah. And then he finds people to like work for him for free. He gets them to buy in just from his idea. And he doesn't pay him anything. He's like, we're going to open this thing. He's like, eventually, like everyone's going to be taken care of. You're all going to get a piece of it. You're going to get a job. He's like, I'm building this. I want you to believe. And they're all like, yeah, I'm working at my job, but it kind of sucks. And I always want to be an entrepreneur, but I never had the opportunity. This is exciting to me. And he gets them all to buy in for nothing. It's awesome. It's a really good show, but it's a lesson in entrepreneurship. How like he didn't go with he didn't start with a lot of money. He started just with an idea, and it was now obviously the guy has a lot of talent. He's a billionaire, right? So I mean, not everyone's going to be able to do that. But it shows that it's not really the money; it's the person that really and the drive that he has. Did you
tell your dad that after him giving you money?
Exactly, legit. Yeah.
Hopefully, your dad's not listening.
I know. Totally,
Maybe you didn't need all that money.
Yeah, my dad's totally. My dad, every time I bought it in a company, and now that I'm scaling the businesses, my dad's like, he's happy for me. But my dad is like complete opposite. My dad was all about saving as much money as he could to retire and not work. Right. And I'm about building because I love working.
Right.
Like for me, like my hobby is buying businesses and doing business and thinking about business. Like on the
fact that you make money out of it is just
it's
a bonus.
It's a hobby. Like that's what I do. Like on the weekends, like I'm looking at businesses. I'm looking at my businesses. I'm looking at financials. Like I just love it. I don't know why. It's just what I love to do.
It's so funny because the contractor space, and this is like 74 episodes in. Most of our owners and people we talk to are. My dad was in the business forever. I started when I was 5, swinging hammers, working for him, and now I own the company, and we've got 30 or 40 employees, and that's how they operate. But there have been a few like you, same other thing. They came from a totally separate world, and just said, well, let's just take this business, the fact that it's for
He's doing that
window tinting, window tinting. That's just the platform, right? I mean, you could have easily fallen into any other line of work or any other, you know what I mean?
I joke with my dad because before we bought
you take the same model and you put it into anything and it could happen.
Before we bought the automotive window tinting shop, we were looking for different businesses and we seriously looked at a trophy business. The trophy business for like teams and stuff.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so I could have been the trophy king of California.
Well, shit, especially in 2020, literally everyone gets a fucking trophy.
Everyone gets a fucking trophy, right?
You're not selling to just the first place team. All 8 teams get the trophy now.
And that's why, like, in talking about window tinting, like when I talk about the business, like I mean, to be like really transparent and honest, like I'm not passionate about window tinting. Like who's passionate about fucking window tinting? Like it's not that exciting of a product. Now, it's an awesome product. It works. You got to believe in the product or you're not going to be able to, sell what you do. So I love the product. It definitely works. It's a great business, and I love business.
Yeah.
It's a great business to run. It's a high profit margin business. You can run it remotely. You can scale it. Like it's a great business, and that's really what I love about it. And also, it does have great positive. It's diversified. We have window tinting for solar to block heat. We have security, so to break-ins and things like that. Graffiti film, graphics, frost, and logos. Like there's a lot of. It's diversified, so it's a great business, and that's what I love. And so,
well, that's where I was going with it. Is I feel like for a very long time, and I think we're kind of transitioning out of it, which is positive, but the construction and contractor space, that was the mentality, right? That was the only way to own a business was to have put your hands and blood and sweat and tears into it for so long and to have taken it over. Nobody really thought like, hey, let's build a contractor business like a white collar business, like a restaurant or like a, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't really, but I think that's kind of changing, and I think
that's totally true. Like I came into it, I think that was an advantage. I came into it with like my dad, an entrepreneur, and a background in business, but not in that business. So I wasn't sort of like.
Well, and then you were smart enough to hire the smart people around you, right? Like
And
you didn't go out there like tinting windows yourself and try. You know what I mean? Like.
And some people in the industry are like, oh, I'm the best window tinter. I'm like, I don't want to be the best window tinter. If I'm the fucking best window tinter in my company, that's not good, right? You know what I mean? Like, I can tint your window. I know how to do it, but am I going to do a good job? Probably not. You know what I mean? Because if I was, it wouldn't make sense, right? I wouldn't be able to scale. Like, but I know how to do it. I think it's hard for people to wrap their mind around, especially in the contractor. I mean, it's a very prideful, division, or a very prideful. Your workspace, you know what I mean? Like, they feel like they have to be involved, but I mean, it's a business, right? Like,
I have to,
it's a business. Run it like a business. You own the damn business. That's run it like a business.
That's the only way to scale. That's the only way to scale, and that's why I see a lot of companies that are kind of stay small and they want to grow and they won't, but they have a problem like delegating. That was the huge thing, and letting go. That was the huge thing that I had to get over, like letting go and being like, okay, you do this, right? And so now, like, the best thing in the world, the best feeling in the world is when, like, somebody in my company will come and, like, they'll tell me about something some kind of policy or procedure. They're like, oh, yeah, this is how we do this. And I'm like, what? And, like, I have no idea what it is. Like, that's awesome. They created it, right? They saw a problem. They created a procedure and a policy. They didn't ask me. They didn't have to ask me, but I don't know about it. Like that's an awesome feeling. It just gives you a sense of confidence that like empowering your employees is really that's the really way to grow a company.
Right. Well, they're like mini business owners. They're 100%.
Not creating well, it's funny you said empower employees. Empowering employees too. You need to talk to one of the guys we had on a couple weeks ago, just because he's doing a lot of the same stuff, not in the same space, but Juan Baños.
Oh yeah,
the dude. I don't know if you've heard of him, but you two need to connect. You are like from the same mold. It's about he's doing a lot of the same stuff as far as just acquiring businesses and taking his model, kind of like you, and helping them grow. And he takes a little piece and helps them grow. And it's just I think finding the right employees is important, and then also being accountable. Like as a CEO, like you have to understand and. I think most successful CEOs will understand that like everything is their fault, right? I mean, everything is their fault. It has to be like you are the end all be all. Yep.
Like whatever
shit flows uphill.
Whatever they did, like you hired them, you put them in that position. Mm-hmm. It's your fault. And so if you just like look at the business like that, and then you can being self-aware is huge. Like when we've hired people, we just like. Everyone's like we always ask on the interviews like what are your 3 strengths and what are your 3 weaknesses, right? And the weaknesses are I work too hard, The
Michael Scott.
Yeah. I care too much. I'm like, so no. Tell me a fucking weakness. You know what I mean? Like I can't do 2 things at once. I can't ask my wife. Like she'll constant. Are you listening to me? Are you listening to me? Because I'm like thinking about something else. Yeah, right. I just can't multitask. I'm just not like that. So like I could go down the road of the things I suck at, but like you have to be able to like know what you're good at, know what you're not good at. And then when you get people, like when we hire people, like we don't even like skills is like kind of on the back end of it. Like are you like a happy person? Right. Or are you like a miserable person? Right. Like, you know what I mean? In life. You wake up every morning and I'm like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, I hate my girlfriend, I hate my wife, whatever, you know what I mean? My kid, I'm miserable. Are you a miserable person or are you a happy person? Like, that's like number one, right? You know, because you're working next to somebody, like you
You're
don't
living
want
life with them.
you don't want to, like, you just want them to be a good, happy. So you have to, but how do you? So you got to kind of get that in an interview and figure out if they're in the right mindset, and then, like, you know, are they smart enough to do the job? Right, and then you figure out, okay, well, are they diligent? Are they detail oriented? I'll teach you skills. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you know what I mean, like, I'll teach you how to do stuff. The guy on the Billionaire Show, he found this guy. This guy's name was Matt, as convenient, but he found this guy named Matt, and he, like, was, you know, he hired him to be like the main guy. This guy's phenomenal. Worked for free. This guy's phenomenal. Ran like the whole business for him. But, like, I was like, he just found the guy, and he's like, you could tell, like, he's drawing up graphs. He comes and he gives him all these, like, you know, charts and stuff. And I was like, man, he just, like, picked that guy out of fucking nowhere. And
well, I mean, that's part of his skill set,
that's
right?
His skill set.
He can recognize the talent.
He could recognize it, and he knew it. And he's the guy. And so, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think. All in all, I think contractors business in general is, you know, has right now, I think, like you said, depending on what sector you're in, could be super busy. It could be a little slow. I think it's going to come back. I think next year is going to be a good year. Well, we'll see how the election goes. What happens with all that stuff, that crazy stuff. But for me, it's been great. I mean, it's provided me a living, provided me scalability, fun, like opening more locations. Like, we want to open. You know, we want to go east, right? So we're on the West Coast, right?
That's what I was going to get at. Is kind of what your plan is for the future.
I mean, we're going to scale as, you know, as much as we can. You know, people that want to sell their businesses. You know what I mean? Like, if we find people that want to buy and they're good quality businesses and the owners are good people, like, doing a deal is, you know, especially important. Now we have like, from those first acquisitions that I did, you know, now, you know, or like, you know, the employees are crying and stuff.
You don't
like,
walk in the same way.
No, it's totally different. Yeah. So now, like, there's like an acquisition plan, and there's like a thing.
There's a manual, a handbook,
there's everything. You know what I mean? And then, like, we do financial projections, and like it's real, you know. And so, but I see, you know, now we have the potential. You know, we could easily get to, you know, $25-30 million, you know, or more than that, you know, and that's a pretty nice sized business, you know, for a contractor, you know, for a guy that started in doing auto window tinting, you know. So I think, so all in all, I'm happy with it, and I just generally operating and running businesses, and as long as I can keep doing that, then I'm happy. So, you know.
Very cool, man. That was fun. That was fun. Well, before we wrap it up, and I think maybe go get some pizza.
Yeah, let's do it.
Before we wrap it, how do we let everybody know how to find you? How to social media or websites?
So just, Matt, Matt at solarart.com. You go to solarart.com. Just, you know, reach out.
You guys on?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Any Facebook or
we got Instagram, all that stuff. Yes, salspizzeria.com. Sal's Pizzeria's with an S if you want pizza. Love it. Thanks, guys.
Very cool. Thanks so much.
Matt.
We appreciate it.
Man, cool.
Good times.
You got it.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.